I see you also speak about the same pain, but I'm surprised because most of your tenants are government. Government doesn't feel pain.
Godfrey, thank you very much. And I think you make a very valid point. And the pain that we are feeling is as a result of the much delayed leases that we've been anticipating.
Government machinery working slowly.
Absolutely. I've been on record to say that a fund like Delta should actually, in the current economic environment, should be thriving. Investors should be flocking to a fund like Delta once the leases start coming.
Yeah.
The problem that we've had is that for the better part of the last 2 years, we've been communicating to the market that the leases are coming. The leases are coming. So there is some investor fatigue in terms of when those leases will come. I have no doubt that those leases are going to come. We were very fortunate today at our results presentation to have some senior government representative who came and presented to our shareholders and advised them that the target of signing some of the leases before the 31st of December 2018 will be met. For some of the leases, and definitely we see that as the market bottoming out for ourselves.
Yeah.
That obviously would allow us to go and spend the 600 million rand capex budget that we want to spend on these properties, which after the fire in Johannesburg on the government buildings, these inner city buildings, which are traditionally a lot older than your Sandton buildings, they do need a lot of TLC and a lot of capex to be spent on them. So, the catalyst for that growth, not only for leases and for our WALE, which is our weighted average lease expiry, but if you look at the downstream opportunities in the environment where the president has been holding a summit about job summit and all of those type of things, the downstream opportunities, if a fund like Delta is able to spend 600 million, think about the painters, the carpenters, the plumbers. That obviously speaks to that narrative about job creation, obviously.
Sure. So can we take it that you have dealt with all the pain that you can deal with in this particular reporting period, and that going forward you are beginning from a clean slate and therefore will be able to profit more? And I wonder in particular if you can also make reference to the struggles you have had in terms of managing some of the buildings, including the forum.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, government does move a bit slower, but I think particularly in a company like Delta, which is very much focused on being factual. We think that the only way to improve and show investor confidence is to basically show physical signed leases.
Right.
We don't want to fall into the same trap whereby government tells us that they're going to start signing leases, and then there's another delay, and then obviously investors invest on confidence.
Yeah.
So we have been quite vocal to our government partners to say, look, let's start the signing leases as a sign of confidence, of bringing investor confidence.
Yeah.
On forum, I think we have obviously taken a prudent approach whereby we have provided 30 million rand provision in our numbers.
Sure.
That is as a result of the measurement of the building. As part of that renegotiating and renewing of leases, it was found that the building square meterage was not as what was on the ground. So we've basically taken a 30 million rand provision on that, and that has obviously had a knock-on effect.
Absolutely.
On
your
our
expenses
numbers.
Are up 24%.
Absolutely, and that 30 million is obviously in there as part of the provision.
Yeah.
But more importantly, if you look at the guidance that we have given to our shareholders of a negative 2 to 6% for this current half of the year, it's obviously knocked it down a bit. We've taken the pain now for future benefit.
Hopefully,
and I think we've got a very prudent and very conservative board in that regard.
Hopefully, done and dusted.
Absolutely.
So 80% of your business coming through from government.
Absolutely.
Is it better to rebalance it? Or is that something that you have looked at obviously and decided maybe it's safer to stay with government? Because when you are arguing with government, when you want to renew, they don't say reduce those rentals by 10% because this economy is going nowhere.
To the contrary, Godfrey, I think They're quite vigilant.
Are they?
You know, obviously, as part of this renegotiations, we've had the National Treasury involved as well now.
Yeah, those are tough
Government
points,
is
right?
obviously going through austerity measures. They're looking for some savings, but we've already factored that into our forecast going forward for our guidance to our shareholders.
Yeah.
The only piece of the puzzle that is missing is the signed leases. So from our banking partners, from our shareholders, everybody understands where the rentals will ultimately fall to us. We've communicated that.
Right.
The only thing that is missing is the actual execution, which is quite imperative.
Sure.
With regards to your questions in terms of government, no, I think we're quite comfortable with government. I think we've created a serious niche for ourselves. We are the largest landlord to government, and I think for us to go and change our strategy elsewhere, where and start competing with the likes of Redefine or other retail funds, we will definitely take quite a beating, particularly as we have geared our entire back office to dealing with government.
Even though your vacancy rate, as you told me, is sitting around 13%, I was speaking to Andrew, and he was telling me his vacancy rate is around 4%, 4.5%.
Yeah, we see that as an opportunity. We have taken the pain. I mean, if you look at our share price performance, it's come down significantly. Obviously, fund managers would have priced some of the delays into our share price, but as management, we don't get paid to look at the share price. We get paid, obviously, to grow distribution, to grow NAV, and that is something that we are focusing on. And we are between now and the next reporting period. We are quite confident that we'll see a turnaround in our vacancy schedule significantly. The two nodes that are hurting us are Free State and particularly Sunninghill. Right. Sunninghill, we wouldn't ordinarily have invested there.
Oh, no. Well, I wouldn't think you'd get any pain out of it because that's where the UN complexes are, part of them, right? And it's generally regarded as a posh area, and then the other side you've got Waterfall, and I'm thinking, what are you talking about?
It falls in between two very strong nodes, being Sandton and Waterfall.
Right.
And the only reason why we invested there was because of Eskom. With the challenges that Eskom itself, that they are going through, it's obviously had a knock-on effect. If you recall, Godfrey, you had PricewaterhouseCoopers, who were also in Sunninghill. They've moved out to
I didn't realize
Waterfall. That's left a huge vacancy of an additional 50,000 square meters of GLA in that particular node, which is obviously suppressing rentals in that node. So we are obviously looking for quite innovative solutions. We have found two small tenants to obviously fill the gap, and we are having to squeeze our rentals quite significantly.
Absolutely, in this economy as well. Before you go, one quick question. Actually, I can't imagine your next AGM is going to be a nice one, because you're saying here, in terms of your distribution, you're looking at reversion to, what is it, between 2% and 6%. Is that, and what I made to Andrew was that's below inflation.
That's correct. I think in the current economic climate,
it's understandable.
It's very understandable. I think, if we are able to match that with long-term leases, investors like to see quality and quality of earnings in terms of the long-term leases. Obviously, a fund like Delta is not a sexy fund. We generally don't have 15 or 16% returns. We show basically very much conservative growth, because obviously there's taxpayers' monies that we're dealing with.
Absolutely, 100%.